Yeah, we're ready. All right. It's 5 o'clock, and we want to call our policy committee to order. Appreciate everyone being here this evening, and we've got a fair amount of business to cover. So that's the reason why I sent out a little agenda for us to work through, because in not just having an hour, there's a lot of stuff here we want to cover and give ourselves the opportunity to try to get this knocked out. So first thing I want to talk about is where we left off last month, and that's policy 1404, appeals to the board. We had some discussion about whether or not we put time limits on the public comment section or not. So I'm going to just pause right here and ask if anybody had any thoughts on that after reconsidering our discussion from last month.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be guilty of one to start off again, that I still think that it's a smart idea to remove the 30-minute total time limit on 1.404. I know up at the Gatlinburg at our summer law conference, they touched on that. If I remember correctly, it was stated here that, that was an example for TSBA to go by, but they made the comment there that we can form this and fashion this however this board sees fit. There was another speaker there that I may quote 2 or 3 times during this meeting right here, but he looked and said, "You as elected school board members are guardians of the public trust." So now, this board right here has made leaps and bounds improvement on being able to look at the public and say, "Hey, if you want to come speak, come speak. We'll listen. We'll hear you. We'll try to address that. If we don't know, we'll find the answer. We'll get you on the agenda." So I am positive in my mind, I'm positive in the hope of the setting of this school board here to delete the maximum amount of time of 30 minutes just completely away from this policy. So if there's a motion to be made, I'll make that motion.
So here's giving us some thought how we handle this in committee. So, and I didn't reach out to our attorney to see if this is, or anybody at TSBA to see if this is exactly how we need to do it, but it made sense to me that coming out of committee, if we're all in agreement unanimously, work out the language, then we can move this forward. We can bring this forward as part of our committee recommendation, and we can vote on it then. That doesn't mean that everybody couldn't change their vote, but I think coming out of committee, we all need to be in unison on where we're at on that. If we don't agree, then somebody could make a motion to put it on as an old business agenda item, and then we could discuss it during the normal course of business at that time. So, Mr. Howard, there wouldn't be any reason for a motion right now. We're just getting everybody's thoughts and feedback. But thank you for that. So you would be for not putting the time limit on the period of public comment.
Just that one thing, Chairman. The other time limits and everything, I don't think we've had any problem with the minutes per speaker and things.
Right.
Like
You're just talking about
that 1 30-minute.
we could have 7 people come in here, want to speak. If everybody took their 5 minutes, that would be 35 minutes, or we'd have 10 and whatnot. Okay, that's some good thoughts. So I'll go around, just keep going around. Ms. Fowler, would you like to? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it would be a good idea to take it off, the 30-minute thing, but I think we need to look back, because I don't think we'll ever have 20 people. So if you did, let me take these off, sorry. If you had 10 people at 5 minutes, you're looking at 50 minutes. I think somewhere we do have to put some kind of line there so we're not here till 10 o'clock. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so that would mean you'd say that we would need to put a time limit on it.
But not 30 minutes.
But not 30 minutes.
Okay. So do you have you given a thought on what would be a reasonable time?
No one has known.
Okay, give you a second to come back to that.
Can I ask a question to the board?
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there anything that would preclude the board from extending that if you wanted to? I mean, if you had a 30-minute time limit and then say there were 20 people here and it was a topic that the board really wanted to hear from, is there anything in this that says that you couldn't make a motion that night and say that we continue this conversation? And if the board votes that they want to continue it, then you could extend it as long as you wanted. And at some point, you could go 2 hours, and if the board member said, I think we've heard enough, at this point I make a motion that we move on. I just wondered if that's a way to, I'm just making a suggestion, it's not my vote, obviously, to make, but I know, for most meetings, I don't think that that's going to be an issue, but there might be some, like Mr. Howard said, that where you have several people that need to speak, I don't think it would preclude anything for the board saying, hey, I make a motion that we extend this and listen to some more people until such time somebody makes a motion to stop it. But that was just a suggestion. If it's the number, because I keep hearing the board members say, well, what if there's 10, what if there's 20, what if there's 30? That might be a way to avoid that, and I'll hush. Thank you.
Well, and there's a thought process here too that I've had. We have a sign-up sheet that everybody that wants to speak is on that sign-up sheet by 6 o'clock. And we pull the sign-up sheet at 6 o'clock before we ever start our meeting. And at that point, you're going to know exactly how many people are going to be on the public comment section. So you can, in your consent agenda or in your opening statement, we can say, we're going to extend the public comment, from past 30 minutes to 50 minutes. It's going to be a 50-minute public comment tonight. I mean, I think that's kind of what Mr. D's saying at that point. For me, I mean, we're going to know how many people is going to be here and want to speak. So I think we can adjust at that point. The time limit doesn't really matter to me. I want the public to be heard. I want them to be able to speak, and I want them to feel like they can come and speak in this public comment section. And time limit doesn't really mean anything to me. I mean, you can put 30 minutes, you can put an hour. But if there's 20 people that come and show up and want to speak and it's a topic we want to talk about, then I say let's let all 20 of them speak and have their 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. That's you, Ms. Stone.
Sorry for jumping.
That's all right. You got out of order. That's really messed me up now because you got everything out of order.
It was there and it had to
All
come
right.
out.
That's fine, Mr. McDonald.
Can I say something
Yes.
first?
Yes, ma'am.
Please. I do like Jason's idea. If we've got 20 here, then I think, I mean, I'm with him. I think they all want to be heard, and that's the most important thing from them, is that they want to feel like they are being heard.
Ms. Stone?
I feel like if somebody takes the time to drive up here and shows up, I think they really want to be heard, and as long as they get to be heard, I don't have a problem if we say 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever, as long as everybody that takes the time to come to show up gets to be heard.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hickey.
Yeah, I'm good with that, too, as far as, we just remove it, like Mr. Howard says. If it comes to the point of there's 20, 30 people, we start going, if it gets to 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, can we not just table it? Say, hey, we're gonna call a special meeting for discussion? Well, we've got all kinds of options, so if it means more to the public for us to remove it, leave the 5 minutes in there, yeah. Sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay, so I think consensus I'm hearing on this policy is that we're leaning towards not having a time limit in there, respect the public will, and who comes to speak, give them the opportunity to speak. If we don't put the time limit in there, the question would be, we have language in here that says delegations must select only one individual to speak on their behalf unless otherwise determined by the board. So is it delegation, does that consist of everybody wanting, multiple people wanting to speak on the same topic, or is delegation meaning that you have a Kiwanis Club group coming in, rather than letting all Kiwanis Club people come in and speak, just having one representative? Is that your, what is your understanding of that?
Mr. Young, if I could say something to that.
Yes.
You know, when we was talking about the Central View issue, not everybody had the same idea. I mean, they may be 10 people come up, and part of them may have a different idea from the one that lives in the community says, oh, I'll speak. But they may not say what some of the others said. I mean, if there's a group that is a real group, sure. But if it's just different people that's not really acquainted with the whole group, I think they need to get opportunity to speak.
So we recognize individuals, but that still doesn't say, as far as delegation, it does say here that as far as delegations and policy, that we only select one individual for that delegation. Again, going back to if Kiwanis Club wanted to come and speak, we'd recognize one member from that group, because you would assume
They would all be together.
They would all have.
That would be a group, but I'm saying if, like the whole community from Central View come, I mean, a lot of them may have different ideas from the other, and they're not probably in a club where they've discussed it and at length. I mean, I'm just saying, unless they're a group that associates as a group.
Okay, so I'm just playing devil's advocate here to make sure that we're clear on what we're talking about. So individuals would be individuals, delegations would be, we recognize that as a group, and they would have one spokesperson where individuals want to talk on a topic could sign up and speak there. So,
Mr. Chairman, I think it gives you a little leniency in that very last part of that sentence.
Sure.
Where it says, unless otherwise determined by the board. I think that is, I think that's a good phrase to use.
true, but you have to have a starting point.
Absolutely.
Okay, so so if what I'm hearing everybody say is that we're not inclined to put a time limit on the language of public, on the time limit on the public comment portion of our meeting. Is that what I'm hearing everybody say?
Time limit doesn't mean anything to me, so yeah, that's fine.
I just want to make sure
I agree. I'm with you.
that we're all on the same page. Okay, so if that's the case, then I'm not sure if we need to revise policy 1404, because it already has a, no, excuse me. Policy 1404 will have to be revised to where we say that the agenda for each meeting will allow for public comment. So that's the language that we will have to put in, but we will not put in language that says that we're limited to a certain time period. Okay, so that's how we'll bring that forward.
Yeah, it's just the one sentence.
So just to be clear from my notes, we're just removing that sentence that says the total public comment period shall be for no more than 30 minutes.
Correct.
Okay,
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the one that's on our posted. I'm not looking at the revised one. Okay. All right. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Board, for that consideration. All good comments.
All right. Thank you all. All right. So let's move on to next. Next on our list is policy 1901, 1903. Both of these policies address how we handle charter schools. Charter schools are something that if somebody applied and wanted to start a charter school in our district, that we would have to have oversight for that. We have to have a process for accepting applications, and then policy regarding oversight. And so policies, there's been, as you've seen there in in your packet, there's been some additions to those policies, 1901, 1903, I think based on the legislative changes. So we don't have any charter schools in our district, but policy needs to be updated. And so we update as presented tonight in 1901, 1903. That would prepare us in the event there ever was a filing. Now, if there was a filing, just for all board members to be aware, then we would then have to adopt policies, I think it's 1904 through 1906, in order to comply for the oversight of the charter schools. But again, that doesn't pertain to us now, so we won't distract ourselves on those policies, but the charter school policies that we do need to adopt tonight or bring forward for first reading at 1901, 1903, based on the revisions that were in your packet. So any comments or questions concerns on those policies?
Have we ever had a request for any kind of charter school in this area? And it may be something for Mr. D, but.
Define this area.
Well,
White
I'm
County
talking
or
about White County, yes, I'm sorry.
White County, I don't think so.
I mean, I know we've had private schools in White County before, but nothing on the charter school side that I know of. But Mr. D, you might be able to answer that.
So what these are, we do not currently have a charter school or a charter school application. There are about 6 or 7 different charter school policies that TSBA recommends. But when you don't have one, you need the first initial 2, which would be how to apply and then how they're governed. So these are just updates to those 2 policies as to if we did have a charter school application put in. If that happened, then we would have to bring up about 4 or 5 other policies as to how to govern those. So these are just the revisions to the 2 that you need to have in place in case you get a charter school application.
The question was, do we know of any, have we ever had somebody apply for a charter school?
We have not in my tenure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so any questions, comments on that besides you, Mr. McDonald?
Mr. Chairman, this 1901, 1903, is that wording coming from the state, TSBA, or what? Where's it coming from?
That language was recommended by TSBA, am I correct? Yes.
Next question, has it always been the director of public schools oversight? Had the oversight of it? Thank you.
It functioned just like a regular school.
Sorry, on a related topic right there, does that count, would a charter school count toward this LEA's funding? Or would it be absent from it?
So they are public funded schools. The money would flow through the LEA to that school, but it's managed by that school, by that entity.
Okay, thank you.
We would just be the pass-through entity
Yes.
for that. Okay. Any other questions on 1901, 1903? So are we in agreement we can bring this for first reading tonight?
Yes.
Okay. All right, moving on, next one is 4301, interscholastics, policy on interscholastic athletics. I think as you noted there in that, read through that policy that TSSAA is going to start levying fines on schools for parents or spectators that might be asked to leave for an event, sporting event, and putting policy in there. They'll build a school, what's $250, and then it just gives us the right to go and try to recoup that money. So that's why that policy has been revised and have language in there, again, recommended language, and basically just to address the fact that somebody gets unruly and asked to leave, that we can at least we can try to go and recoup that money back. So that was the revision on that. So any questions on?
Mr. Chairman, I do like the language in the very end of the personal conduct at the sporting events that, when we go to recoup this, that these parents or these students are barred from any event in the future until that money is recouped. I like that. You know, we've got to start learning that our actions carry more in the public than people think they do. And I kind of like the fact that, you know, we're going to be assessed that fine. Our school district's going to have to pay that fine, but this is giving us the leeway to be able to go and to try to recoup that fine from them for them acting stupid. So
Yeah, I guess it doesn't remove somebody's right to get out of line. It just means that we don't have to pay for it.
that's right. That's right.
Mr. Chairman, one other comment to the legislative side of it that was just wording talked also that this fine of $250 could be levied on the individual and on the school system, and the school system could be put on probation too. And it could be as simple as someone walking out on the playing field of court during the games going on to other extended things, other making things. So, yeah, this is something to have in policy and have in place.
Okay. Any other comments? Mr. Hickey, Ms. Stone, Ms. Fowler? Okay, so if not, then can we say that this committee, we want to bring this policy out, bring this up for first reading, coming out of committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would probably recommend that we go ahead and suspend the second reading of this, since we do have football season coming up and we're already in golf season. So I would recommend that we suspend second reading and approve this to become policy effective immediately.
Okay, so if we do that, then we'll probably have to pull, when we go to vote, we'll probably have to pull that out and make reference to the policy that we're basing our not having two readings on this. So
And the reason I'm saying that is because football season starts in 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, you're talking about time sensitive matters, and that policy does speak to that. We just, somebody bring it up in the meeting, and so that way we can just have reference to it.
Yeah,
So
I don't mind to do that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dromberger was trying to help me get my stuff together. So I'm actually trying, have you got your screen button? Am I understanding it right? Are we getting fined if somebody?
Yes, it's a new policy. The TSSAA can fine if when a spectator has to be ejected. They already fine our coaches if they're ejected, but spectators from your fan base can be ejected, and your school can be fined $250 per offense. What this would do would allow us to, in our policy, to we can't directly assign that fine to somebody, but unless they pay it, we can bar them from any sporting events on our campus until such time that they do pay it. So that's what this language is suggesting.
Okay, thank you. I'm with Jason.
Okay, so everybody's okay to bring this out of committee? Okay, all right, great, thank you on that. Let's see, all right, so it was, had a request to review discarded school materials and supplies for possible donations or public auctions, and best I could tell that what policies speak to this is 2403 and 2702. So I asked you to review those policies. If I'm not mistaken, 2702 speaks to items that are purchased with federal funds, and 2403 speaks to just the various inventory that we as a district have. But I think that before we would consider doing something different, we probably need to make sure that we understand from Mr. Mark and Mr. Dromberger how the procurement or disposal of items actually takes place, because we may be limited in options and things to reduce. So Mr. Markham, I know you just walked in, but could you speak to that as far as just disposal and sales of inventory or supplies? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yes, as far as I'm concerned, we operate under the 1981 Financial Management Act. If that specifically spells out the only way that items can be disposed of that are public property is through an auction. And so that is the finance director's responsibility to do that, and do that auction. Now, if there's some other type of rules or something, I'm not aware of that, but that's what I operate under, and that's what we've always operated under, is the 1981 Financial Management Act, which specifically says it has to be a public auction unless it's a historical, like a deemed historical thing. And now if it's between governmental entities, that can happen, that is going to go to an auction, but in order for the public to purchase something, or for us to dispose of something to the public, or the public, it has to be by the public.
So that, what you're saying is if we were to dispose something to the public, not cross governmental entities, then we would, based on the rules that you as our fiscal agent are following, we would have to follow the public auction for disposal.
Correct, it's got to be an auction of some type. Now, whether that's an online auction, which is what we typically do, or it's everybody get together and have an auction, or we publicize it in the newspaper and have sealed bids. It has to be a competitive open to everyone in the public.
So as far as our ability to donate, unless it was to another entity, governmental entity, that would be something that we would have a hard time getting around if we just wanted to donate $5,000 worth of chairs to some.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So, all right, thank you. So any questions on that?
Mr. Chairman, if I could go next, please. I brought this up because a member of the community called me and said that they saw, I think I remember correctly, a truckload of used desks turning on Okeechobee Road heading towards Lineville. And they said they ought to donate those things to people before they throw them away. I said, "You sure they throw them away? They could be ones to review the stores down there." And so I said, "I'll do my due diligence and bring it up and ask the question if that's what it was." And they said, "Well, they still a lot of this time of the year. I know teachers and everybody's principals and everything say that's obsolete, and it just goes to the dumpsters." So trying to put those two things together to see if there was an opportunity, if there was a monetary value. I used to think that it was below $500, was it, but it didn't have to go for an auction? Maybe I'm wrong on that.
The law says any item, the public item has to go to the auction, there's not a dollar.
Well, I wasn't, thank you for clarifying that, but I always thought there was a monetary value of $250, $500, something like that, being surplus material that could be set to the side, and once done that, just said, "Hey, community, you're gonna have one day to come pick it up, not it's one of those junk garbage." Because I don't know, I mean, a lot of people might see treasures, yes, it's junk, but what I'm getting at, the responsibility on both sides as far as the school system and as far as taxpayers go. They look at that and say, "That's my tax dollar going to the junkyard down there," and a lot of it doesn't. So just to bring that up, clarify, Mr. D wants to talk about it, Chad wants to verify, just to make sure that the tax dollars are being well taken care of, so.
If I can speak to that quickly, I was saying, Mr. Thorpe is here tonight, who handles all the storage that goes on at Central View, which is where I imagine those desks are going. Beginning of the year, as they decide how many rooms they need in each school, how many teachers they have, they may say, "We don't need this many desks, we have this furniture needs to go to storage." So we've been using Central View for a lot of that storage, which I imagine is where that was going. There is a line in our policy that speaks about $500 or less may be disposed of without the necessity of bids. But we don't. Most of the things we don't dispose of, so we just put them in storage. And I can't remember the last time we've just thrown things away like that that they were made. So and no loads of desks have been disposed of in the landfill to start this year.
I guess if Mr. Thorpe ran out of room and he said he could come to us as board and say, "Hey, we have a lot of surplus items that we need to do something to, so before we take them to the landfill, then you could have a public auction at that point in time, in person maybe. So, so anyway, that is, any other questions on that? So we have policy in place, regarding how we handle that. Supplies and, or discarded school materials and supplies. So, unless you go, late tonight and you review it, you think there's some language change that needs to be made, then we'll move on to our next item. But did think that, thank Mr. Markham for, bringing some clarity to that. Next item, on our agenda was, it's requested that we review policy, I typed in 2003, it's actually 1403, regarding board members adding to the agenda. And so I just wanted to use this time to share the approach that I've taken to coming up with the agendas. Of course, as the agendas are put together collaboratively with the director and the board chair. It forms the executive committee, and the board chair is the chairman of that executive committee, and that's tasked with putting an agenda together. And so policy says that any board member may place an item on the agenda for discussion, and the particular order may vary from meeting to meeting, keeping with business at hand. And this also says at the beginning of each meeting, the board shall vote by majority vote, approve the agenda, which may involve additions to or deletion of items previously included in the agenda. So the approach I've taken as far as trying to create an agenda is try to consist of bringing things together that we must do, like items on our calendar or annual calendar. Then also things that we want to hear about when we have our department reports where we invite people in to come in, and then other things that we want to discuss. Obviously, try to take consideration of timeliness into consideration when putting an agenda together. I mean, it would be very easy to put a very lengthy agenda together, but there's also, times when things are urgent or not urgent, or maybe they're discussed at later parts of the year. But if I'm emailed for items that, or Mr. D as well, items want to be put on the agenda, probably will take the approach that we'll either, if it's something that may be policy related, then I'll probably put it in the items and discuss it in committee like we have now. Or it's something that we need to slide in on the agenda, we will work that in. Obviously, it's when the agenda is not official until we vote on it, and everyone has the opportunity to make motions for changing. So that's the approach that I've taken to trying to put agendas together for our meeting. And I'm not opposed to advice or encouragement to consider in other ways, but at the end of the day, if you send me something, and I prefer it to be sent an email, so that way I don't have to rely on memory or some other source to find it. If you send it to email, and for those that you have, I appreciate that. But send it an email and do everything possible to try to get that worked in. And if it's something that might be coming up next month, it may get deferred to next month again, just trying to keep things somewhat in order manner. So I'll stop there, and I'll give you guys the opportunity to critique my approach. Mr. McDonald.
How did you know I wanted to do first?
Because you're on the right side. I just want to start with you.
I was just going to say, I like the approach of email because you have that paper trail, and you got we have the sent version of it, you have the received version of it. The one thing that I could say that I would like would be a reply back to say, hey, I got that, and you've done that before for me on anything I've ever done. But You know, just, hey, I've got it, it's in my mental note, or it's in my notes, and then let me know that it's either gonna be on there, it's gonna be pushed to next month, or if it's not, time sensitive. So that's the only thing I can see is just maybe I don't know if you wanna call it a read receipt or what, but,
You want a response.
just some kind of response.
You're not the only one that's accused me of being guilty of that in other professions.
Well, that just to me would be the only thing that I could see that would make, maybe make you let us know that, hey, it's heard and it's gonna be there, so that's my only comment.
Okay. Shall we?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you bringing this up, discuss it in policy here. And I like the wording of it. I don't want anything changed about it. I just like for, sometimes we as members become complacent, a lot of times don't read and study the agenda, so now's a good time when the attention is brought to them, to address them and to look over the stuff, ponder on them. I feel like the importance for every school board member that was elected by a community or groups of communities right there deserve to have things put on there whenever they see that it is a community importance, and I think that's wording in one of our policy statements. A lot of times that District 1 may not understand District 6, or 7 might not understand District 3 or 4, you know, just for the simple fact of locations and or schools and needing things to be addressed. And if I were chairman, and I'm trying to use myself as an example here, I might see a request and say, well, that doesn't have the importance that some of the other things are, but not knowing that that is a very important thing to that community and needs to be discussed, that I might be guilty of saying, hey, let's put that off, let's do it next month, let's do it whenever we don't have a big agenda. But I would beg that any chair caution on the side of having everything be heard, everything be brought out. Whatever school board member represents, that someone's come to them and asked them, because believe it or not, everything that I've asked to put on the agenda, someone has asked me about that question, and I've either didn't know or wasn't sure whether it's being addressed with the level or the intensity that it might be necessary. So, I appreciate you saying this, appreciate you stating this, and I would just beg anytime in the future whether I agree or disagree, it just needs to be heard. It just needs to be brought out, discussed, got out and open, and hopefully gotten through with so we can go on to other business. If not, it lingers sometimes and it grows. And when it grows so big, then things sometimes just get way out of hand. So I guess that's all I want to say.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Fowler?
I like the email idea. Emailing for the agenda
Yes, sir.
to add something on. I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stone?
I'm fine also.
Okay, thank you, Mr. G. I'm sorry? Okay, all right, we're not thinking, there's no policy wording changes on that, but I did just want to use that since it was brought up, and I thought this would be the appropriate time, because again, it's in policy, and if there's anything to be changed, we can address that here. All right, next is request to review policy 2202, specifically item 5, boardmanship code of conduct, policy 1202, and then 12021, and addressing boardmanship code of conduct. The 12021, that policy outlines our code of conduct. So if there's anything regarding that boardmanship code of conduct and how we conduct ourselves, after reading that policy, we can have that discussion now. So I'll start with Mr. Hickey. Okay, Ms. Stone, do you have any thoughts on the policy 1.2021?
Fine with it.
Okay, Ms. Stone?
I'm good with it.
Okay, Mr. Howard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The quote again any one of the, speakers that we saw at the, at Gatlinburg Convention right there, we are guardians of the public trust. I would, ask for consideration to have that in, under the second section, my relationship to my community, in wording, however, it would flow with the rest of it right there. And second part is that, I tried to allude to this sometime in the past and didn't have the wording correctly about code of conduct. I was saying code of ethics. And, maybe Mr. McDonald said that we sign one every year. And so I think it'd be a good idea to sign this at least once, if not every year. Have this printed up before we sign it and say, hey, next time I get mad at a school board member because I think they've got hate in their heart, I'll be going, uh-oh, I keep bringing this something together or say something like that. That we just understand we're different people, but we still have a code of conduct to try to work through and conduct a good meeting. That's it.
Okay, so, Mr. Chairman, what I hear you saying is that under my relation to my community, you're saying you'd like to figure out some way to work in guardians of the public trust. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
So, could you, can I sign you, give you a homework assignment?
Yes, sir.
Could you read through that policy and maybe get back with me on where you think that might fit in, so I can bring that forward next month and we can talk about it in committee and just see how the wording sounds with everybody.
Be glad to.
All right, thank you. All right, appreciate you doing that. And then as far as boards and code of conduct and as board members signing off on that, that would probably be something I'd recommend that if somebody wants to put that on the agenda for a future meeting, that we do that. And we can have a proper discussion at that time. All right, anything else on boards and code of conduct?
One thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McDonald.
That's okay. I'm used to being looked up.
Well, I just missed you in the corner.
I do want to say, and after reading over this policy, it really stuck out to me as a line forward, my relation to the children. I will at all times think in terms of children first. And I think that's what we as board members have to always do, is have the children's best interests at heart at all times in everything that we do in this campus and for the school system. So, I don't have a background in education. I don't know that I would want a background in education, but I do understand how education works, and I think we have to make sure our children are taken care of in a safe manner. It needs to be a safe place, and I think that's what we need to be thinking about first, is our children. I've had children, I've had a child come through this system, and he's a productive member of society now, and I think everybody in this room has had kids that came through the system. To me, we have to put the needs of our children first, and not just my child or anybody else's child or grandchild, but we have 4,000 and something students in this county that need our total attention all the time. So I like that first section there about putting our children first.
All right, thank you, Mr. McDonald. All right, so Mr. Chairman has an assignment, and we will move that forward to next future meeting we can. Make sure that we get that in policy and can start working if we want to amend that. All right, next time, and I apologize, this is one I'm a little tardy on the assignment and that is we voted, approved that we would accept we would allow for student board members to be a part of our board. Policy first as board members, policy saying refers to that as student ambassadors. Mr. McDonald provided me with policy for Germantown that he had discovered and he read and he thought was good. Also, I was just looking around this morning, I saw a policy that's in place for Coffee counties. Both these districts do allow for student representatives on their board, and so what we need to do is we need to bring a student on. We need to have some policy on that we would, as far as the responsibilities, just like we have a horsemanship code of conduct, there needs to be something that speaks to this as well. So I put a draft in your packet of those different policies, and I see since then that there's a couple more examples added, and Mr. D, I'm going to assume that you had part of that, so thank you for doing that. I'm going to pause here. We got 14 minutes before our meeting starts, so we'll be conscious of time. But I just want to try to get some feedback from you on those policies. Yes, please.
Since I brought this up, maybe May, I'm not for sure exactly what it was, but still like the policy in Germantown. I think it takes the best approach for me to look at the way that they lay it out, what the student representative will do, what they may attend, not attend. I just think that I would like to see for us to have two. I would like for us to do a junior and a senior, and the junior, this year's junior would serve a 2-year term. I think that's what they're. I think if I read that correctly and part of their stuff, that's what they did is they had a junior and a senior, and so they served the senior this year would serve only 1 year, but the junior would serve a 2-year term, and then they'll automatically rotate the next year. That's the junior that was this year's junior would be on the board as a senior next year, so we'd always have one new representative.
Mr. Brown, who is teaching, I think, advanced history or dual enrollment up there, he also is the one who's heading up the, what do you call that, Mr. McDonald, the junior TSBA?
It's the
Scope Conference. He's taking delegations to that. So I think it would be, we would trust his judgment on that if he was the one that was selected as designee for picking the representatives. Our policy would just state the parameters for which he had to choose from.
Okay. I get it.
Okay. Ms. Stone?
I'm fine.
Okay, Mr. Hickey?
Yes, I think there's 2 or 3 that actually have good points. Germantown definitely looks good. Like Metro has in theirs. I know Mr. McDonald said you know, could come, could not come. I think the wording in the metro is better when they're expected to come. I think we need to put, you know, it's not like we're gonna punish them if they don't, but expect to come, and also have a mentor, so one person from the board would actually be their, you know, their mentor, to actually be the middle person to share with them. That was a good point in the metro. And then also in the Hawkins, it had, you know, that they would actually present, as far as like give they would be non-voting, but they would actually give their take at each meeting or every quarter or something like that. So we definitely can combine a couple things from those.
Okay, so this is probably, I don't know, it may not be as much time sensitive matter or not. I think we need to put Mr. Wilson on notice that we're planning to move forward with this in a junior and a senior, and we're working on a policy to put the parameters in place, and then go and try to dissect this. Well, what I've heard from our conversation is that we want a junior and a senior. We want, they're expected to come. Obviously, I think it speaks to that, and I think the good idea was having a mentor from the board. So I think we can put that language in there. I think both policies, Coffee County and Germantown, both spoke to the fact that they would get training from, and we would that would be something that we would have the director speak to. So take care of that responsibility, and so we'll make sure that they come in, they're properly trained. We won't ask them to do like the state does us, but we'll definitely make sure they have some training before they come in. So,
Mr. Chairman, I do think it also needs to have in there that anything that is a sensitive matter, whether it be a student hearing or anything like that, that they not be included in that stuff because of legality. And them going back to the school and talking about what they hear here. So I don't know, I mean, Mr. Dean might expand on that. I thought there was some information in there that said a couple of different places.
We just have to run that by our legal counsel. I mean, if a public meeting is a public meeting, but there are some times in which there are meetings where the board can go into private session on certain matters, and obviously I would think we would want to exclude the student in that sort of matter, but when they go into a private matter with their attorney, but other than that, it's a public meeting. Yeah. So, and there's certain confidentiality that applies to any meeting when you're talking about students or specifics, but it's a good word to be cautious of that. And I think you could seek the guidance of those that already have student representatives on their boards to get advice in those situations.
all right, so as we give ourselves some time to wrap up here. So I think good discussion on this policy, and hopefully I can have something drafted up for us to look at next meeting. And then again, I think we would it would be in order if we can get this put together next meeting to adopt this first reading. We obviously, like all policies, when we have the opportunity to come back and revisit and revise them as we deem necessary, and so that anything starting off, we're not going to be locked in, and there's no statute or legislation that's dictating this policy. So this is a big policy that we would totally own. So we would have the liberty to change that as needed. So that's I'll take that, Mr. Howard. I'll take that assignment. Okay. All right. So we're going to have a maintenance report. I'm going to suggest that we move that to our regular board meeting. We'll have that can be brought up in our time period on the agenda there, as well as financials. So we'll take care of that matter. That'll give us 5 minutes to allow public to come in if they're not already in, and we can prepare for our meeting. So this time we'll adjourn our committee meeting. Thank you. And that is the disclosure of conflicts of interest. So I'd like to ask that any board member, we left one out. Pause that. Got to put the approval of the minutes for tonight, or the agenda for tonight. Seeing the agenda tonight that's being presented, board members, first, if you would, if there's anyone that has any conflict that you'd like to disclose on the agenda that's being presented, let it be known now, please.
Mr. Chairman, as I do each meeting, I want to make a statement that my wife is a teacher in White County Schools, but what the comments that you'll hear from me tonight and the voting that will take place tonight will be in the best interest of the children of White County Schools.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, I will state the same as Mr. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Hickey.
Mr. Chairman, like signing me, I like the way Mr. McDonald says it, so it goes for me too.
Okay, thank you. So let the minutes note that Mr. McDonald, Mr. Hickey, and Mr. Howard all have spouses working within the district, but nothing on the agenda proposed tonight presents a conflict of interest for them. This time, board members, to add to our consent agenda approval of the agenda for tonight. Apologize for typing over that, but then also for approval of the minutes that were held on our meeting from July 13th of 2023. So this time I'd entertain a motion for approval of the agenda. Yes, sir.
Chairman, I would also like to, from our policy meeting, policy 4.301, the interscholastic athletics, TWSAA fines, I'd like to pull that out and vote on that and take, because of time sensitive things with football season starting, golf already in process, and tennis, and suspending the second reading and putting that policy in place on first reading.
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll pull that policy out, we'll move that down to new business, and so we'll address that policy when it comes up when we get to the new business portion of our agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anything else, board members? Okay, so entertain a motion for approval of our consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McDonald, have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hickey. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda, we have approval of volunteer coaches. We have Kristen Bignall, and for White County High School Marching Band, and then Caitlin Keller for White County High School Bowling. Volunteer coaches are recommended for approval to us by the administration and various levels, and all volunteers have to go through and pass a background check. Just for the record, Ms. Sims, have background checks been performed on these individuals? Okay, so these individuals that you'd be considering tonight, both have passed background checks and have been submitted for our approval. So this time I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hickey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Howard. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is Mr. Drumbarger Director of Schools, will give us a district update.
Thank you, Chairman Young. Brief update from the district. You have personnel reports in your folder showing all the employment transactions this past month, of which there were several. All certified positions are filled for the year. Many surrounding districts are still looking for people, and White County is in great shape as far as being fully staffed. Safety, tonight, the board is set to approve $153,000 of safety grant funding from the state. We've prioritized a list of needs from each school to address with this funding. We're also awaiting news from a grant application that we've submitted that could provide up to $500,000 more to go towards safety improvements across the district. We expect to hear from that grant opportunity maybe late October. Academically, test scores from data and last year's testing continue to trickle in. Early growth numbers for the district are good overall, with several high marks in individual schools. This data is currently embargoed by the state, but will be released and celebrated soon. Athletics, middle school football won their opening game in convincing fashion. High school football kicks off next week in Chattanooga. Soccer, volleyball, cross country, and other sports are also underway. We'll reserve an update on Bondycroft later for an agenda item. We'll get to that, and I can provide an update there. I had a meeting in Nashville today with the Commissioner of Education to discuss a number of topics, including third grade retention or promotion law, school accountability, the A through F letter grades that will be assigned to all state schools later this fall. Our hope is that the new commissioner and her team will work together with districts and directors across the state. We will meet quarterly with her in person over the next year. I'd like to thank our supervisors that are in attendance tonight for their help as we start the school year. Their hard work and leadership paved the way for a smooth start to the year, and we thank them for that. And this completes my brief director's report, but I'll be glad to answer your questions that you have.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Trumpholder? Okay, thank you for that report. Thank you for representing White County in Nashville Commissioner as well. So next item on our agenda is Bondycroft School Update. As we head into school, we have this building project going on and now in the construction phase of that. I asked Mr. Trumberger to put together just an update for us, and there was a request, question by one of the board members regarding a school sign, and so give them the opportunity to speak to that during this item. So, Mr. Trumberger.
So currently at Bondycroft, the parking lot has binder down. We were able to get that down the day before school started, so they're able to use the parking lot, and we're thankful for that. New entrance has been poured. All the footers have been poured. Part of the main pour, the concrete foundation has been poured. The walls are going up, and so lots of progress being made at Bondycroft right now. The next challenge will be amongst the rain to get the entire foundation poured, and then we'll really start to see things progress as they put the next level on and pour the upper slab as well. So it's starting to really take shape, and the school and community is working well around all the construction. We're proud that so far the relationship with the construction company has been really good, and they've been very cooperative, and so we're excited to see that progress throughout the year. The timeline right now is still thinking maybe spring break might be a completion date for that. I'm not sure if we would move at that point. We'll just have to wait and see logistically what would be best, but that's the timeline as it stands right now.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Drumberger a question?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's proud to see that work continue on. The community is excited, and teachers are working, and students, I mean, they're proud of that right there. I have a question about the school sign out front. The one that has the lines on the agenda that says Bondycroft. I reckon it's about as old as the old part of the school there is. I hear from several people in the community, they would love to see that changed, maybe to a digital one or updated. Is there a question about ownership of it, working relationship with the fire department? And if there is, how could that proceed, and how could that be helpful, or would the fire department, the EPA, or the school system, how could they get in all the community come together and possibly get us a new sign and see how far we can go with that? How would you recommend a step to do that?
Well, I'd be glad to start that conversation and get those people at the table and see what can be done. I know at one point there was a electronic reader board sign. It still is up there. I don't think it functions anymore. And I think the PTO had at once upon a time that Bondycroft had gone in on. But we just need to start a conversation. I'll be glad to initiate that and get those folks at the table and discuss it. Do some discussion about funding and see where that would come from. And there's a possibility at the end of the project that there might be contingency funds left over that could go to something like that. I mean, it's unknown at this time, but certainly the first step would be to get all the players at the table, from the school administration, the PTO, to the fire department, and representatives from this office to start the conversation of, what could be done collaboratively to get a new sign put up.
Thank you. If I could help, let me know.
Will do.
All right. Any other questions, comments for our director regarding the Bonnie Croft School project?
Realistically, do you think spring break is a realistic timeline or finish time for that school?
Well, originally they had said around Christmas, but of course, all the rain that we've had, rain always interrupts, the weather always interrupts the building. It's possible. Most of the severe challenges, I think, have been overcome at this point, as far as the foundation goes and the civil work. So at this point, it's just a building project. And so weather providing, they should be able to move pretty quickly. That's what they're saying now. But as I said, that would be late in the year, so we would obviously have access to it. I don't know if they would fully move classrooms at that point. It would just depend on the timing. If we could get it done before spring break and crews were able to move those teachers into rooms, that could be done. It's similar to what we did at Finley. But if it happened after spring break, there probably wouldn't be ample time to, I say that, we'll just have to see when we get there, and I don't know if it'd be worth the hassle, but they can certainly make use of the building, but we'll just have to see what the timing is, but we would love to get in there sooner the better. I know they're excited about it, we all are.
Any other questions regarding Bonnie Croft? Okay. Hearing none, then we'll move on to the next agenda item, and that is recognizing Mr. Brian Haley, who's going to give us an update on the threat assessment teams. So, Mr. Haley.
While he's coming, Mr. Chairman, sorry I jumped the gun on mine. I'm able right there. On the bottom now.
Okay, so appreciate the opportunity to report to you this evening here the body of work that we've done. Let me first off by say that our school district, we've done a tremendous amount of work for school safety. And I don't say that to say we wasn't up to par with where we needed to be, but we've done a lot of work in that area last year. We've got a lot of exciting things that we're rolling out this year, and we look forward to how we're just going to continue to grow to better protect all of our people, not just students, but our staff members and everyone there concerned. So at the end of last school year, we partnered with TOS and Navigate 360 to participate in the behavioral threat assessment and suicide prevention training. And this suicide prevention training was a lot like what we currently do with the Jason Foundation that all teachers do, but it's somewhat piggybacked off that, if you will. We've done that training through a state-funded grant known as CARE Project, and that the state made available to us. That grant is still alive today, and the way that it was explained to me is that it would be there until all those monies were evaporated from the account. So we went ahead and started that. We did that voluntarily, but we've done that intentional too, because we had already heard talk about these things were going to become requirements for us, which they have now. And so we wanted to go ahead and get ahead of that, and certainly take advantage of the opportunity with the grant that was there, because as that becomes mandatory now, everyone's going to want, as you can imagine, to get in on that. Also, we had dealt with some minor things, and we just felt like we needed to grow in that area as far as training is concerned. So we did that. Again, I'd like to recognize Richard Bumbleow, just in his efforts for leading the charge with that. He was instrumental with organizing that. Richard had previously gone through threat assessment training when he first come into the district. That was done on a lot smaller scale. And so he had the background knowledge in that to help us move forward with that. And so today, he's considered the primary point of contact when schools encounter a situation, and what that looked like is, hey, this is a scenario, do we need to, proceed with threat assessment, or what does that look like? From there, then it would go to Mr. Drumbarger and myself, and we would provide resources or have to make decisions sometimes on what needs to happen as far as the situation at hand. So I really want to give credit to Mr. Bungalow and the work that's been done there. That credit goes completely to him. So there was two parts of the National Threat Assessment Center. They had level 1 and level 2 training. Level 1 training was an online, self-paced, interactive. There was 5 modules in that training. It took everyone approximately 4 to 6 hours to complete. That training launched April the 10th of last school year, 2022, and we were charged to have that complete before May 12th. The reason May 12th was because that was our date of our level 2 meeting. So we had to complete level 1 before moving into level 2. Level 2 training was a live virtual training. Our district team, we met here in this room. Each school's team met at the schools, but we all could participate through the virtual platform. And again, that took place on May the 12th. The Understanding Suicide Awareness and Prevention, that was an interactive course that's approximately 4 hours in length. That was a 4-course training that was in the 1 to 2 hour range of completion. So overall training through the total body of work, the threat assessment was 10 to 12 hours. And after going through that, that was the amount of time it took us to go through that. We chose to do virtual trainings because the on-site locations were pretty extensive travel. And we just felt like with the amount of people that we were trying to get through that program, it would better serve us to do that virtually. And also, too, we were trying to do that at the end of the year where a lot of other things were happening, and so it just made better sense for us. So what that training looked like was, again, we have a district threat assessment team that consists of 4 or 5 members, and I can name those if you guys would like to know who makes up that team. It's, of course, me and Mr. Drumbarger, it's Mr. Bungalow, it's Dr. Thompson, and Ms. Kennard. And so we've gone through that training. Each school has their own school team that handles threat assessments and those type of things. But the focus of the training was identifying what is a threat assessment, what's in need of pursuing, so to speak. Also, how to open a threat assessment case, how to monitor those cases, how to close cases, and just identifying potential threat situations for our school district, potentially. And that was just to name a few topics. I will tell you lastly that we had 26 folks in our school district to complete the CARE project training on threat assessment and suicide prevention. We have 5 district members, school members left that need to complete level 2, and the reason being was May 12th was also senior awards, and so we had some conflicts with that. We could not choose that, so it could not be held. And then we have 4 folks that are going to need both levels, the complete package of that training, because, for example, we've got a new SRO at the middle school, we've got a couple new folks we're bringing in from the district level, and we had another personnel in the district that wasn't able to do either training. So when we get to where our final number will land, we will be at 35 folks in our district trained with the threat assessment CARE project training that the state is focusing on.
Thank you, Mr. Haley, and I want to commend you for your team for getting out ahead of that, knowing it's coming, trying to take advantage of funding when you could. It's much better to be out ahead of the curve on that than trying to catch up. And of course, can't eliminate it, but whatever you can do to prevent it, all you do is prevent the next one. Keep pushing it down the road. That's what you want to do. So thank you for doing that. Board members, have any questions, comments for Mr. Haley?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. Haley. I know that your plate's getting full about school safety, and we're all concerned with wanting you to get some help that way. My question is, are you familiar with the special session that Bill Lee's called? Have you seen his 18 points about
Sorry.
18 points of safety, and some of us talking about number 2, school safety plan, and threat assessment in it, law enforcement accessibility, even transfer juvenile defendants age 16 and older to criminal justice. Are you, I mean, I know this all may be new, but I'm asking your opinion, and if you've heard any of these right here, what would hurt the school system for this to be pursued if we were to say, hey, legislators, think twice about this? I'd like to have your input, if you, even if you've not heard about his 18 points right here.
Well, so I have seen those, right? I'm not gonna tell you that I've studied those where I can recite all 18 of those here on the cuff. But what I would say is, I've really not dug into it yet deep enough to know if there's things there that it's going to cause difficulties to work with. And some of the things that we see all the time is things come out with the best intentions, but then all of a sudden there's that, well, we didn't really think about that, or, oh, what if this happened? So I expect some of that to be in there, but what I can tell you is this: we are meeting the Tennessee Code Annotated. We have the folks we are required to give copies of our EOPs to. They are receiving that. They have access to that. We have started district CERT meetings that we do monthly now, where we bring in our emergency personnel, our first responders, if you will, to our meetings monthly, and we bring in district people, and we have time set up where administrators will come to some of those meetings. There's a select few of those. We even are going to bring in school teams to a couple of those meetings this year. So we have worked exclusively, extensively with 911 and just all of law enforcement, ambulances. I don't know if I'm answering your question specifically, but I can say that we are getting our I's dotted and our T's crossed, if that makes sense to you. And we feel like that we're in a healthy place with school safety. We feel like that we are getting our message out across the district, and we feel like we've got things centralized and in a nice fashion where folks can access those things. We've got good plans in place that we drill and we rehearse, and I feel like we are ready as ready can be, but as we all know, I don't think you can ever completely plan for the unknown and the situations that occur with that. So, did I get close?
Absolutely.
All right.
My sincere desire was to say, hey, I want a two-way communication here. I don't like to see legislators just push things down and not ask the people that are actually having to implement the program.
Right.
And we discussed it here, the board has before, hey, is this what the teachers want? And so this two-way communication, I guess, is if nothing else comes out about any of the points right here, is just say, hey, I want to help, we want to help. If you see something, never know who might have just the ear of the right legislator at the right moment, the right time to say, hey, take this heat off of our
And we do that locally. I know Mr. Dornberger, I'm sure, can't speak for him, but I know he's in a lot of meetings with the right people, like, the governor's meetings and those type of things. So the right people are at the right tables to relay school messages, district messages back to that. When it falls in my lap, it's here it is, let's go and let's get it done. So I just take it on, and we don't worry about what we like or what we don't like. We do what we're required to do and what we feel like is in the best interest of children. And hopefully we get there. We are, to use someone else's words, we are an imperfect people, and we are open to mistakes. And so we try not to be that, and we hope not to be. But the reality is, I remind our staff all the time, we get a plan in place, it puts the wheels in motion, but at the end of the day, we've got to cross bridges when we get to them and make the best decision we can at that particular moment. So, but the guidelines, we're meeting them, we're following them, we're doing all the things that we're required to do.
Okay, any other questions from Mr. Haley?
I got a question,
All right.
Mr. Haley. I'm just curious, at each individual school, what staff does the teams consist of? Is it the SRO officer?
Are we talking about threat assessment?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, because we have multiple teams at school. Like, for example, we have a school emergency response team, which might be if we had a AED or CPR type situation, which we went through AED, CPR training, Narcan, EpiPen, we did all that during in-service week. We started ALICE training with our staff Wednesday, at the middle school, they're at the high school today, and then they will go through here with our elementary students beginning on August the 21st. And that is just training on how to, how to protect yourself. And it's okay if there may be a need to evacuate, there may be a need to lock down, and it's okay to, if you feel comfortable putting up a fight, so it's just, that's what ALICE training is, kind of in a nutshell. But we have school emergency response teams, we have threat assessment teams. The threat assessment teams are, at each school, the principal, or maybe principal, assistant principal, depending on the school, but there'll be an administrator, at least one at each school. There'll be the student resource officer, SRO, and then there will be a counselor, and then sometimes maybe one or two additional members. Again, it varies school by school, but every school team has usually about 4 or more team members that make up the threat assessment team. And they get together and they, it's a long procedure. You have to go through identifying questions and you identify situations, and then the team works through those on, I guess the extent of the threat.
Right.
And then that's when it comes to me and Mr. Drumbarger, and then we try to proceed from there. School emergency response teams, again, Tracy, they vary from 5 or 6 at a school to 30 at the high school, because the way that building is laid out, they have to have more team members to make sure every area is being covered and thought about. Now, they have a nucleus group out of that 30 that when they do their planning meetings and things like that they will come together, so.
Thank you for
Is that-
explaining that, because I'm new, so I'm
Yeah.
still learning, so
That's
I
all right.
appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Haley. We appreciate you and everything you and your team does.
Echo that, Mr. Haley. Thank you and for your team and focusing on safety. All right, next item on our agenda is approval of system testing coordinators. Each year we have to, as a board, approve the system testing coordinators that are recommended to us by Mr. Drumbarger. This year, Angela Fresh and Valerie Butcher have been recommended for serve as our system testing coordinators for the year. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for approval on those coordinators.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Howard. Any discussion? Comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is approval of the current employee benefits administration agreement. This is a MOU that we signed with the state of Tennessee, and it's outlines the health coverage and that's available, the state's health coverage that's available through our district along with the voluntary benefits that are available there, and it outlines the responsibilities of both parties. This is done annually as well, is it correct? So that is that has to be approved and for us, so that way we're in compliance with statute on that. So this time I'd entertain a motion for approval of the MOU between to our district and the state as presented.
So moved.
A motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hickey. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had a question, is there anything, I guess Mr. Drumbarger can speak to this, is there anything that's a major change? I know there's 10 pages of policy.
No, this is a annual formality, so to speak, as long as we don't change our provider. We're using the state for health, dental, and vision. All this MOU says is that if we were to go outside of that box, we would have to have something that was equal or better than what the state provides, and so that's the need for the MOU.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Any other comments? Okay, have a motion and a second. Without further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is approval of the ABA therapy agreement. Stromberg, I'll let you speak to this.
Yes, ABA is applied behavior analysis. I'll read the definition. This says it's an evidence-based practice based on science of learning and behavior. This ABA therapy is used to increase appropriate behaviors and teach new skills, and ABA is also effective in reducing problem behaviors. We have an opportunity to partner with the Global Behavior Education Alliance, a grant that will provide these services only at Doyle Elementary School. They will have to get prior approval with the parents to participate, and then this company will deal directly with that student's insurance coverage. So this is just to allow them to provide those services at Doyle Elementary School.
Okay, so in looking at this, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like this is a three-step process for us as a board, that we approve the agreement, we approve the contract, we approve the agreement, and then we accept the grants for the funding to pay that. Am I reading that correctly?
No, Dr. Thompson, would you like to come speak to that, please? And I'll make sure we get the specifics of that correct. Thank you.
There you go. This is a private company, and they take care of insurance for the students. In order to be eligible, you have to have autism. And so they work with autistic students, and the parents initiate this, and it's paid through the parents' insurance.
Dr. Thompson, is ABA, is this just at Doyle?
No,
this is
several different schools. It just depends on where they have.
I'm sorry, I mistook that. I confused that with basic, which we'll get to in just a moment. But yeah, this will be at all elementary schools.
At all elementary schools. Again, the students have to be have autism, and the parents reach out to this company. We don't initiate anything. We allow this company to come in to do one-on-one therapy with those kids during the school day, and helps out the teachers also and the rest of the students.
So this is a service that we offer to the parents upon their request.
No, we don't offer it. It's parent initiated.
That's what I'm sorry, that's what I meant. It's a parent initiated service that we will allow to come through, that they can, so we would recognize that.
Any ABA therapist that comes through has to have a background check before they start working with the students.
Okay. So we're just, our objective tonight is to prove to allow that, to give the parents that option.
Yes.
Okay. So board members, that does get a little thick sometimes on navigating through those. Appreciate you, Mr. Thompson, stepping up and explaining that. We understand that this is just, as a board, we're approving, allowing that to parents to bring an ABA qualified behavior specialist to come in and work with their child in our district. Y'all, is there any questions on that? Because I think we have the right person up at the microphone to answer.
Mr. Chairman, is there going to be any other schools available to use this service in the future?
Any school can use this service. Again, the parents initiate all of this. We don't initiate anything. We just allow this company to come in and work with those students.
There's a lot of wording out here and a lot of hard things for this simple person to understand, so I have to look at you and say that this is good to go.
It's good. Okay. We've seen good efforts from the students to improve the behavior, and really help them go along. It's good service.
And so, Mr. Thompson, this is a benefit that's offered to those that are receiving state insurance. And so it's us allowing them to take advantage of that benefit in our district.
Correct.
Okay.
Dr. Thompson, I do have one question. Is this for global only, or are we using other?
Any other agencies that want to provide a contract to us, we will do the same.
Oh, okay, so it's just a blanket approval of all ABA therapies that are offered.
This one contract came from ABA, and it's just an understanding
Right.
that anybody that wants to present them to us, we will do the same thing.
Thank you. So we would have, if another company came and wanted to provide this service, we would have to do another, basically this is an MOU as well. So we would have to do that for each one, just to make sure that we had all our bases covered. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Thompson.
I've got a question.
Dr. Thompson?
How do the parents find out? Do we send literature home with the child?
A lot of times during IEP meeting, we may say, we recommend you look at the ABA therapy, and we'll give a list of providers, and then that parent will go on that and contact the provider. There is a long waiting list for those, but we do provide different companies, so hey, you pick the one you feel works best for your student.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. I have a question, motion. I don't think it's a motion, I missed it.
okay, any other questions or comments on the ABA therapy agreement? Okay, I would entertain a motion for approval. Allow ABA services to be used in our, allow them in our district for behavioral therapy instruction.
I'll second that.
Would you be the first?
Yes, first.
Okay.
I thought you was gonna be the first.
I have first by Ms. Stone. Motion by Ms. Stone. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Ms. Tower. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is approval of the AFHK SFA grant agreement. So,
Would you like me to speak to that, Mr. Chairman?
walk us through it. If we need to ask Mr. Thompson to come up here, we may do that. We're not gonna.
I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, don't get comfortable.
So, yeah, this is actually a grant that we received at Jericho Dents at the high school, and helped us secure this and secure it from the USDA, Department of Agriculture, an amount of $153,000. And so she'll be working with Ms. Tanya Savage, or excuse me, actually $147,500, I think it's the correct number. And she'll be working with Tanya Savage to see how we can spend that most wisely through our Fit School Nutrition Program. Those acronyms are actually stand for the Action for Healthy Kids grant. And so we just received this notification, and this approval tonight will allow us to accept that money, and then there are having conversations about how we're going to, what equipment and supplies and things we'll to purchase to support our students through Healthy Schools grant.
Okay, thank you for that explanation, and board members, just for clarity, this would be grant monies that go into the school nutrition account, which would be above and beyond what we already passed as a budget for this school year. So this would be given the opportunity, latitude, and resources to do things that they might not otherwise been able to do.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I want to say that there's a little ambiguity here about the purpose of this, because Ms. Demps was successful last year in getting a grant, and they were so impressed with her that they pushed her to do this one as well. And so she went ahead and applied and got the money. So the good news is that we have money. Now they're going to work as a team to figure out the best way to spend this. So we're proud of her work there, and the way that she's been able to, they were very impressed with her work. So we want to give her accolades for her efforts there.
Most certainly will. Writing grants, requesting money is not an easy task, so that's congratulations to our nutrition program. Okay, so board members, we would be this time approving the receipt of these grant funds. So this time I entertain a motion for approval. I have a motion by Mr. Hickey. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. McDonald. Any other discussion?
I do have one question for Ms. Savage. Do you have any idea of what you're going to pursue with this? Sorry to make you get up.
Just hold it on top, and if you don't mind, just leave it on when you're finished. Thank you.
Hello? One thing I do want to say about this is a reimbursement. We will pay for the equipment and things up front, and then it's reimbursed actually from the USDA. Just to make that clear too. It's not really anything they're going to send us, and then we buy from that, we'll purchase, and then they reimburse us. Some things that we're going to be doing, we're replacing ovens. Right, and in some of the freezers, we have, racks that we need to have replaced that are getting rusty and things like that. But basically, I'm just using it on equipment. I'm not food or anything like that, it'll just be ovens, serving lines, things like that.
And when you said we were going to, we'll be buying that we'll be buying that material. So we're gonna see a debit and a credit sometime in a budget amendment later down the road.
Yes.
That'll seek approval from us.
Yes. And it has to be approved with them and a back and forth about what it is. It won't just be me being able to buy, whatever it is.
Ms. Savage?
Yes, ma'am.
Could I ask a question? Could that be also used for, food? Would it be allowed to be used for food?
No, not this. It's not used for food.
Well, I knew we was getting, the free breakfast and lunches at the middle school and down, but I knew the high school was still gonna have to pay for those. I didn't know if there was some way that we could use it towards,
I mean,
extra help.
not this one. I mean, I'm not saying there's not things out there. I don't know if there is, but for this particular thing, it is for equipment. That's what it's earmarked for.
Mr. Chairman, as I asked Mr. Thompson, this is a long document right here. So
Yes.
I'm gonna look at you and say, this is good to go, right?
It is good to go, yes.
Okay.
Yes, like Mr. D said, Ms. Gibbs does a great job organizing, following through, dotting her T's and crossing her I's, that this company reached out to her, dotting her I's and crossing her T's. That's it. But they reached out to her because our district as a whole, we do what we're supposed to do with grants and things like that and make it happen. And they wanted, to share the wealth with her. I was just blessed it was nutrition. So I was glad.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I have a motion and a second, so all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, next item on our agenda is approval of the Project Basic Agreement, and this is specifically to Doyle Elementary, and this is a memorandum of agreement between Project Basic, which stands for Volunteer Behavioral Health Care Systems, and our district. So I will let Mr. Drumbarger speak to the details of this agreement and why we're specifically using that in that building.
Okay, I misspoke a little bit earlier. This is the program is specifically for Doyle Elementary School right now through this opportunity. Project Basic is Better Attitudes and Skills in Children. It's a school-based mental health early intervention and prevention program. Basically a series of lessons that can be taught to students through a pyramid model. Again, parents would have the opportunity to opt in or out of these, and then from those interventions and preventions, they will be able to provide parents with other options for their students. These are looking at healthy psychological and social development in early age, school-age children, a primary focus of kindergarten through third grade. So this would allow volunteer behavioral health care systems to come in with their professionals. Probably, I'm not sure, we would maybe through the guidance program, or we would work that into our rotation to allow them to provide these types of lessons and try to identify early some problems that might arise and make parents aware and work with them more closely with some other opportunities outside of school. So this memorandum of understanding would allow us to allow volunteers to come in and provide those lessons.
No cost to the county?
No cost to the county.
So as far as my question, it's designed for Doyle, is that just, that's great, but is there a reason, is this something that we are going forward on to other schools?
I think the opportunity was presented to us to provide a school where we thought that those volunteer was able to say we could staff a school, and we were able to choose which school we felt like Doyle would be the best option right now based on our needs. Is that correct, Dr. Thompson?
Mr. Drummer, is that, maybe trying to recognize autism or a certain behavioral problem? Or is it just?
It can introduce a number of different things, and from those interventions and from those lessons, then parents could have discussions with volunteer and to let them know what other outside agencies they could speak with and other services that they might want to acquire.
Okay, any other questions regarding Project Basic?
Make a motion to approve it.
Okay, this time I entertain a motion for approval. Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Stone. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is we have 6 fundraiser requests for approval. Consists of White County Middle School Soccer, White County Middle School FFA, and White County Smith Middle School Music. Majority of these are because of new leadership for those programs, and one was just inadvertently missed when we did the fundraising approvals previously. So you have those in your packet for those 3 programs, total 6 in total. So having an opportunity to review those, this time I'd entertain a motion for approval. So I made a motion for approval.
I'll second.
Have a second by Mr. McDonald. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, would you go over those 3 again, because all I see is for the FFA?
No, sir. Yes, sir. It's FFA. They have a jam and salsa sale. We have a mum sale. We have greenhouse plant sale. And those state various times of the year that will take place. Then for the music, they'll be having a Charleston Wrap chocolate sales, and that's going to be used to support materials for their choir music class with the intent of trying to raise $1,500. Then girls soccer, Spirit Night at Yanni's, and hope to raise approximately $500 with that specifically for girls soccer. Excuse me. They expect to raise $1,000 for that program, and then a car wash and bake sale in August as well, with intent to raise $800. So those are the 6 fundraising requests. Okay, I have a motion and a second for approval of fundraisers. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is budget amendments and transfers. Mr. Stromberg, I'll let you speak to that, please.
Yeah, we have a few budget transfers this evening. First is Fund 141 Public Schools Security Grant, $153,000 and change. This is our what we call our school safety money that's come in. So we have a number of itemized or prioritized list of things that we want to use. We did a needs assessment at the end of last year, so we'll be going into the schools and meeting those needs as this money will allow. So be approving the receiving of those funds from the state in the amount of $153,079.80. We also have 142 Tennessee All-Core. This is the grant money to do the All-Core tutoring program in our schools this year. It's an amount of $191,100. Again, that is money that's coming in from federal programs to the county. Subfund 938 in Fund 142 also. This is federal money for the math implementation grant. Not federal money, but math implementation grant. We have a new math series this year, and so by law we have to introduce that to our teachers and train on that. So we have an amount of $71,250 that comes in, and that will be paid to, majority of it will go to NIET, who we have partnered with through the state to train our teachers on the best math practices with our new materials. And then last money coming in is the carryover money from ESSER 2.0 brought over from last year. This is the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Act. So ESSER 2.0 money coming over from last year in the amount of $237,499.57. Again, carryover money from last year to this year. So those are the budget transfers for this month.
Okay, board members, so we have money coming in from the state for safety. We have federal money coming in, and math money's coming in for the training on the new math curriculum that's going to be going into effect. And then we have ESSER monies that was basically just a carryover funds that went from last year's fund balance to this year's fund balance. And that's money that we're just carrying forward, and we have to approve those journal entries.
Yeah, I apologize. Don't believe those are in your packet. Those came in later this week, so I apologize if those are not in there. But it's no money coming out of our pocket. It's money coming into our system. 3 that are grants that are coming into our system to carry out programs, and 1 is carryover from last year, so we can spend it this year.
Okay. Is there understanding of what those transfers are? Those budget amendments are well explained? Okay, thank you. Then this time I would entertain a motion for approval for those budget amendments and transfers.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Hickey. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Passed.
Motion passes. Next item on our agenda is public comment, and for each meeting, prior to the meeting, you will, per policy 1404, we give the public the opportunity to speak, address the board on agenda item or an item that you have interest in our district. Tonight we have one individual who requests to be recognized. That would be Shelley Daniels. From 1664 Duck Pond Road, and the item to be discussed will be the schools. So this time we recognize Daniels. Mr. McDonald will serve as our timekeeper. Ms. Daniels, you will have 5 minutes.
So I'll try to get straight to the point. I'm not going to mean to step on anybody's toes, but if I do, then it's probably a good thing. So this week, my son came to me and decided not to do an assignment. And I'm going to show the assignment. Dave, will you come up here? He also wanted me to ask if this don't, make him get in trouble for his scholarships and all that. I told him he is fine. He's only in middle school. But this first picture, you can see a woman with no face. Now, these are not exact. These are the pictures that he helped me show you guys today. So he got this picture, and then I want you to look at the second picture. It's a room, and if you walk around the room for people to see it, it was a little more vague, he said. It had windows everywhere, and maybe possibly blood laying around. And then she told them the third one that they had the sentence, they have to finish the sentence, but they couldn't change the first 2. I have it here. My son never even started it, and I was very proud of him. And I want you guys to know that this is a new teacher. It says, I never meant to kill her. I only wanted to hurt her. But now her ghost follows me wherever I go. This is not a book. This is not something that they're studying. This was merely just for fun, apparently. I don't know how you can make this to be fun. I don't know how you can make it enjoyable. And my son told me that, he said, Mom, I sit there the rest of the class period, and all I thought was my mind is going to dark places. If a student got a hold of this, and they just made a fictional book, and they finished that story, and it fell on the ground, and another kid come and pick that up, that kid would go to the office, that kid would probably get expelled, that kid would probably have to be investigated from DCS, the parents would be investigated, and everything else. So the next day, I called and I asked for, I wanted to do protocol, and I asked to talk to the teacher. I did not get to talk to the teacher. I was told that Mr. D and the principal at the middle school would get back with me. By the end of the day, I heard that the teacher was brought in for questioning, and she was told that she couldn't do it again. But that was it. I still never got to ask her why she solicited all these students, not just my kid, all of the rest of the school or the classes, to that. We have enough violence. We have enough negativity in the world for our kids to be subject to stuff like this. So, I remember when I was a kid, we brought things to attention, it was done, it was taken care of. If the parents wanted to talk to somebody, they got to talk to somebody. If the principal needed to be there, the teacher needed to be there, or the superintendent, whoever needed to be there, and they would know who needed to be there, would show up and the discussion would be done. I got absolutely nothing. The next day I picked my son up from school, I asked him, how'd it go today? He said we had to turn it in, okay? So you turned it in, so the teacher still got to read upon it. So my husband called the school again and said, why did they have to turn it in? Because she was gonna throw it away, okay? She still got to read it. But here's my thing, we don't even know if she threw it away. We don't know that. If anything, the students should have got an apology. Parents should have got an apology. I should have got a meeting, and it did not happen. It literally got pushed under the rug, and a whole lot of parents did not even know that their kids got to see this. That is not okay. Huh? Oh yeah, so we were told that in our discussion that it was fun. It was just to be a joke. This is not something to joke about. This kid standing here in front of me, that's not a joke, that's my kid. That's all of our kids. And we need to know who we are putting in our schools. We also need to know that when it's not okay to push something under a rug and when it is. I know my 5 minutes are almost up, but I just want to say this. I am so happy for my teachers who instill things in my life to stand firm. I'm glad that I'm being able to show my son that I'm not going to back down. I'm glad the commissioners are here. I'm glad that some of the police officers are here. Because I want tonight for y'all to think about something. We have a right as parents, we have a right as teachers, we have a right as civilians and people in this state to take a stand. Today I want y'all to think about change. I think there needs to be some change. And I think that we need to stop pushing things under the rug and stop paying for stuff and having the school board pay for stuff that shouldn't be under the rug. If we had stuff like that, we could maybe pay lunches for the high schoolers. Just saying. So that's what I want to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannon. Certainly would encourage all members to have questions about assignments and whatnot. Please reach out at the lowest level authority first, and sometimes you may have to be a little bit persistent, but certainly encourage you to start there in trying to address concerns that you might have. Mr. D?
Yeah, I'd just like to say I did support, the board received an email from me that said, first of all, I want to say I totally disagree with that assignment. And I found it pretty ridiculous to start with, and when this is the first time that someone's publicly brought this to me, but I knew about it. Through the grapevine, and I addressed it immediately. And so went to the principal. It wasn't swept under the rug, and maybe it wasn't handled the way that some people would like, but it was definitely addressed early. I brought in the curriculum supervisor immediately. I went to the principal. We actually discussed it with the board attorney, and then we allowed the principal to do some work. To my understanding, it was reported to me that the principal had a conversation with both parents, that they understood what had taken place, and it was my understanding that they were in agreement with how that matter was handled. Obviously they're not, And so I'll look into that further, but it certainly wasn't swept under the rug, but I did allow the principal and the teacher at that level to handle the situation before it came any further. And you know, before it was brought to my attention. Like I said, no one emailed me, called me, or sent me that. I heard about it, but I acted swiftly, and I reported to the school board immediately what I had done. So be glad to look into it. I think it's a pretty ridiculous assignment. I was just very disappointed, and won't speak publicly about the teacher discipline, but
Was all parents notified? Was students apologized?
I don't know that, but I will look into that. I'll be glad.
You should have just done that in the first place.
Well, again, I like to let the principal work that and work its way up, and so I'll follow up on that and see if that's taking place. I think that's certainly appropriate. I'd be glad to look into that for you. So.
He called one parent, he didn't call both, and they never discussed any punishment or coercion.
Okay.
My kid would have had to found that, to turn that in, like she said. So they did, we all been dismissed, they've been in our house the rest of us. Nothing I've done to her, nothing has been done to her at all.
Well, like I said, I won't discuss publicly, you know, personnel discipline, but I'll be glad to look into it further and for you. And that's what I was told, was that both parents.
Why would you always have to look into it further when you're in this position?
As I said earlier, I addressed it early before it was even brought to me. But you didn't address me either. But you didn't address me either, and so it was brought to my attention through the grapevine.
Well, I was told that you like protocol and you like to go and change the man, so I was trying to be respectful, talk to the teacher, which I went around.
But I heard about it through the county commission, which that wasn't
Which is
protocol.
great, I'm glad you heard that.
Yeah, but I addressed it immediately and I reported to the board, so it wasn't swept under the rug. Again, I agree that maybe it wasn't handled to your liking, and I'll be glad to look into it further. But I found the assignment pretty ridiculous and appalling myself, and so you know, I'll be glad to go on further with it. But what I was reported to was that the situation had been handled, that it actually addressed some other things with your student that you were interested in as far as scheduling and classes and things, and so to my understanding that he communicated to both parents and that was handled. So that was the last report that I had on the situation.
Why are you still allowed to go outside the door and get something? It should be stayed on the inside.
Yes, and that's why I addressed the curriculum supervisor early and talked about that. The explanation that it was given was that it was a creative writing opportunity. It was definitely outside the curriculum. It is not, I'm glad you brought that up. That is not part of our curriculum. It's certainly not something that we're teaching. It's not something that, and that teachers admonish for that. And we're actually, we had a plan to follow up to make sure that she's on the curriculum and stays on it.
I think she should be punished for what she did outside. That's a part of the reason that you should be, because she's teaching her kids.
Yeah. I understand.
And then I want to also say that I have looked into a few other things. Other states are going to have an act that's like a privacy act that goes with it along with English and writing. And both the parents, students, and teachers, there's a fine line, and they basically write down what is okay and what's not okay. I know I hate that, you know, we have to put things on coffee, you know, caution is hot. But unfortunately, we have to do things to protect our kids and the teachers. Because sometimes it's students. I'm not saying all teachers are like that, because I have had some amazing teachers. But I would like for you guys to look into that app. And it's something that kind of like the Wi-Fi, you know, where the kids are allowed to get on Wi-Fi. Okay, kids are allowed to write about certain things. Teachers are allowed to provide certain things for the kids to write. I mean, I actually am appalled that we don't have this already, because being creative can go so far.
I agree. What is I'm sorry, what is your son's name?
Dave.
Dave. First of all, I want to say, on behalf of the school system, I'm sorry. You got a bad assignment, and some other things may not have been handled well, and we'll take it farther. And to you as parents, I apologize. Yeah, I didn't do it, but I'll take responsibility for it as the schools, and we'll work and make it better. Yeah, it shouldn't have happened. It was outside the box, and we'll continue working on that. You know, I'll take responsibility, but we have 600 employees, and I don't control every action that they take, but I am responsible for it. So we'll take responsibility for it. We'll do it better next time. Hopefully that won't ever happen again, and shouldn't from that teacher. But I do want to publicly apologize to you. That assignment should have never been given.
Yeah, man, I want to address you for just a second. I want to tell you that I'm proud of you for standing up, for knowing that what you were looking at was a dark thing, and And I will tell you, when I got the phone call, I was mortified that this was even there. And my first phone call was to this man, and he assured me that he was gonna take care of it. And I appreciate you standing up for what you believe and you know is right, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Drummer, I'd like to ask a question too. I mean, are we sure, most typical eighth graders, I think that's what he is, they don't even tell the parents what the assignment is. I'm sure a lot of parents would have no clue of the assignment, and like she said, you know, I know we don't want to snowball this and it get bigger and bigger, but I'm well sure probably at least 75% of the parents would have had no idea that their child had that assignment. So, I mean, I think it is a good idea that we might, you know, say something to the parents if it caused any harm or anything to their students that, you know, we want to make this right.
Yeah, I think by follow-up, I mean, that's what I intend to do, is to see how other folks in the class, other parents were notified, if they were, and to, and certainly to issue something on behalf of the school and the teacher as an apology for that assignment.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to comment also. First of all, I'd like to also apologize to the students and to the parents that know about this assignment right here. I wish the rest of the students' parents were here also. I compliment you all for being here and bringing this up. I love that our legislative body has got involved also, because this is a community. You know, you answer to people, we answer to people. And I think we're all in agreement on a lot of things, and this is one of them right here. I think that this is an action right here that I'm proud to come to the school board at the head right here, because this needs immediate action right here. For me, I know no one's perfect. I know people make mistakes. Our teachers are trying hard, and I compliment all our teachers that work hard to educate our students. And they deserve second chances. This is one of those that I don't see a second chance for. Now that's me. I know there's other heads that disagree, but this came from a place right here that I can't justify. I don't see any creative writing whatsoever. This wasn't just a question of creative writing right here. That opening statement right there was leading. It was directing, and directing down a dark hole that I wouldn't want to see any of our teachers with their students. So I hope this never happens again. I hope that all, as a community, we stick together and we stand together. Teachers, administrators, director, school board alike, all of us should look at this and say, hey, I don't know what the disciplinary action will be. I hope we find out if she's given another chance. This, I don't know if it's she or not. If this person would give a second chance right here, boy, it'd be a thin line. I mean, it'd be a hair line for me.
Okay. Any other comments?
I've got one. I want to say thank you for standing up like you did, and I want to apologize because I feel like as a whole, we let you down and let the whole class down in every one of our classes, because that should have never been brought up with all the bad we have in this world today. But you did a good thing. You always stand up for what's right. I'm very proud of you. Just remember that. And I want to thank you, Shelley, and I would thank you, Muscles. I appreciate you all, and all the commissioners here tonight. Thank every one of them.
Okay.
Other than that, they change it, they know you have to write what I put on the board. Do not let them write anything else. You have to write about that.
Thank you. Okay. Any, for board members, any other comments? Ms. David, appreciate you coming and speaking tonight, bringing that to our attention, and trust that our administration will work through this to address the situation. All right, next item on our agenda is committee reports. Policy committee met today at 5 o'clock, discussed several policies. Coming out of committee, there were actually only two, even though your agenda says three. Policy 1404 will continue to be tabled, and we will not be voting on that tonight. But we do have to make some language revisions to policies 1901 and 1903. That's charter school applications, charter school oversight, just for the public's information. As the LEA, if there was application for a charter school to come into our district, we would have to accept an application, have a process for doing that, and then we, the district, would have oversight over that charter school and would be passed through entity for their funding from the state. But we do not have that, and so because of that, there's only two policies that we have in our policy manual that address that, and those need to be updated and revised for legislative and TSBA recommendations for policies on receiving applications and then oversight. So coming out of the committee, it does not need a motion or a second. This time we have to entertain some discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I do have one item. You were talking about 1404 appeals. We're not gonna approve that tonight, or are we gonna bring that up next month?
Well, 1404, we already had in our policy that the line for public comment. And we announced that, and we make, through our sign-up sheet, we have that, we address that policy that way. The only reason that it was in the discussion was if we were going to put a time limit on that, and that got tabled last meeting, and so it will remain tabled, and just didn't take that off from the, because it did not receive unanimous coming out of committee. Or the unanimous was it stays as it is. So we won't be having an update.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So we're just taking the sentence out, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I
thought we all agreed to take that one sentence out of the 30 minutes, leaving the 5-minute time limit per person.
Yeah, and that's what the policy says.
Yeah, but we were gonna remove the 30-minute time.
That's the revised policy.
Okay, so we'll
That's
have that
revision.
again next week, right? Or next month?
We don't, best of my knowledge, we don't have to, because that's what the policy in place now states. 5 minutes, no time limit.
Okay.
Because we didn't approve the revised policy.
Oh, okay.
We passed it on first reading, but then after discussion, we tabled it. So why don't you go back and check on our website real quick to make sure, but, and you can speak to that in new business, but, or I guess old business. Just verify that for me, Mr. McDonald. But I've looked at this a couple of times. Well, I've got it, I'm sorry, I have it right here. Where I did. Just bear with me, we'll get it.
What it says about the 5 minutes.
We'll make sure before we move forward.
Mr. Chairman, I think there was some wording on further down in 1404 that was on the new revised that we didn't discuss. We did discuss removing the potential revisement of the 30-minute total communication from the audience. But I can't probably, I don't have the revised.
So let me direct you to what's official. What's official is what's posted on our school website.
At the moment.
Under board policy. And,
it is not in there. The 30 minutes is not in there, so it's been updated.
correct.
Okay.
It wasn't in there to begin with.
Right.
So we were not adding it.
Okay.
So the policy would remain in effect as it is.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Are we clear on that? I just want to make sure everybody's clear. The existing policy remains in effect because we already allowed time interruption. Wait a second.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of the audience, would you explain to them what the board agreed, virtually unanimous to do for their benefit?
For the public and visitors here with us tonight, and those online, the discussion was to have model policy, and some districts do this, they set a time limit for the amount of time that they would entertain public comment. And in our discussion, we went back and forth with that a little bit. And obviously, there's a limit to how much discussion you can have that's effective to when people start wearing down. But if there's a discussion going on, as was tonight with Ms. Daniels, we certainly have the option to extend that. But we chose not to put a time limit on it and allow those that wish to address us as a board to speak if they want to speak at our meeting, and we're not putting a time limit on that. So that's what we did not, even though it was had seen some policy in other districts had used that as their as the rules which they went by. We chose to leave that out. That doesn't say that a member could not make a motion and second to end that, or but at this time we feel like, based on history, we should be it should be okay, and we shouldn't keep we should be able to continue to conduct business in an orderly manner. So we're comfortable with that.
And just for clarification, there is a 5-minute per person time limit.
Correct.
There's no overall time limit.
Correct. 5-minute per person time limit, no overall time limit. And if the thing, just point out what policy says, if a delegation was to come in and wish to speak, a delegation meaning an organized group entity that wanted to come in and address the board, then they would have to select one individual to speak on behalf of the others, and unless again the board determines otherwise. So that's a clarification on 1404.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted the audience to recognize that I think that was a positive move for the community and the county as a whole, that we put a maximum amount of time limit for you all to come and address to us at the moment, okay? So y'all compliment your board members for doing that for you, okay?
Yeah, just, and for all those, and again, the spirit of not just the White County School District, but it's encouraged school districts across the state, is that when there's, you take advantage and try to address questions or concerns, or even recommendations or things positive, do that at the lowest level possible, or the lowest level of authority possible. And but then there's also, you work the chain of command up. And one thing that I would just remind everybody that sometimes I feel could get overlooked is that your local district representative is also in that chain, and sometimes board members can be more effective in pushing the narrative than just showing up at a board meeting and bringing up a subject, because a lot of times board members may not be as prepared, because if a board member wants to request to put something on the agenda, then they do have the obligation to provide information, supporting information about what it is they're bringing before the board, and that gives us the opportunity to be more informed. So anyway, just a little side note there. So, pardon? So yes, right now we're just coming out of policy committee. We just have 2 policies that are coming forward for we have 3. One's been pulled to new business. Policy 1901, 1903 coming out of committee for recommendation for approval of the revisions. Does not need a motion or a second, so we've had discussions. So this time, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on our committee reports is maintenance. Ms. Stone.
In our maintenance report, the high school library office unit is operating. Middle school, we are having problems with the septic system, and we continue to work through the problems. Northville, new stalls have been installed in the lobby, boys and girls restrooms. Woodland Park 5th and 3rd grade restrooms were remodeled over the summer and are up and operating now. Several dehumidifiers have been purchased due to the constant water issues seeping up through the floor. Bondycroft Construction is doing well and no issues with the building. Castle has no issues, Dole has no issues, and Finley has no issues.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Any question regarding maintenance? Mr. Hickey.
Question on the middle school, when it was regarding septic system, I'm sure, is that just wording, is that the sewer system?
Yeah, it was the sewer system. We had considerable blockage to start the year, and it's been all cleaned out. It was quite a project. We had to get a third party to help us with that, but things are flowing smoothly now. So they did have bathrooms the entire time. They had to do a little walking to certain parts of the building, so we were able to operate, and it didn't seem to cause any major problems, but things are flowing well now.
Any other questions for Ms. Stone? Okay, next item on our agenda is school improvement. Mr. McConnell will be giving that report.
All right, tonight, Bondycroft students and faculty have had a great first day. We're excited about our building improvements, and our faculty is enthusiastic as ever to be back in the classroom. We look forward to a successful year. At Cassville, excitement fills in the air. At Cass, we're welcoming back our returning students and welcoming a lot of new faces around our building. We're proud of the hard work that our teachers poured into getting our school ready for a successful start to the school year. At Dole, we're excited to welcome our new tribe members to Dole. Our kindergarten night was successful, and we're excited to meet with our parents at open house. At Finley, we've gotten a great school year started. Our teachers and students are already hard at work. We have numerous opportunities planned in the coming weeks to keep our families involved and informed, including open house. At Northfield, our Huskies arrived with big smiles and lots of energy. Our faculty is really excited for a great school year. We look forward to seeing our parents at open house. At Woodland Park, we're off to an amazing start. The faculty, students, and staff are hard at work. We're excited to welcome our Woodland Park families to our open house. At the middle school, our team has hit the ground running. We love seeing our students back in the hallways. Our classrooms are already filled with lots of hands-on learning and laughter. We look forward to meeting parents at open house. And at the high school, White County High School is off to a great 23-24 school year. We had a very successful opening session on Friday. Students from our band, choir, and JROTC did a wonderful job making the morning a success. We're looking forward to a great year. For those that know, tonight was open house from 3:15 to 6:15 countywide. And that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Any comments, questions? Okay, next we'll move into budget. Mr. Hickey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Attached, you have your financial reports. Actually, tonight we have 2 months reports. You'll have June and July. Due to last month, we didn't have the June because of the end of the fiscal year. So a few notes on that. The report represents the full fiscal year of 2023. As the report shows, we finished the year in a good financial position. Overall, the report shows that we essentially broke even for the fiscal year. However, it should be noted that if we had not transferred the $2 million to the school federal projects fund in June, we would have added just shy of $1.85 million to our fund balance. If board members would remember, we did that transfer to pay the contract deal, so that will be coming back. Following the closeout of the ESSER funds and the Bondycroft Construction, we will be able to move the $2 million back into the general purpose fund. Revenues overall fell 0.48% shy of projections for the fiscal year, which is pretty crazy. If it's really 0.48, that's like really close. That's pretty good projections. Expenditures were 11.68% under budget for the fiscal year. And then we move on to the July report. As typical, July is a very slim month for us. For the first few months of the fiscal year, our expenditures will far exceed our revenues. This will begin to stabilize and turn around in October when the property taxes become payable. We await our first TISA payment from the state. under the new state funding model that will likely be arriving soon, and teachers and support staff will receive their first payroll checks of the school year in August, and I'm sure they'll be excited to get those this year. That's all for me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hickey. I think it doesn't need to be overlooked that comment that was made that even with a $2 million fund transfer to other funds for our district to help support cash flow efforts for our construction projects and other startup projects that we have with the district, and monies that will be coming back will be reimbursed for. We still broke even, and that I think our administration, Mr. D, Mr. Markham, and all administrators who are entrusted with these funds, I think that's a great job. So thank you for your work and being good stewards with those funds. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I actually forgot to give some accolades to Mr. Markham. I know this time of the year, especially in the fiscal years and all that, it's great to have him on our side.
Our district does a very good job of stewardship when it comes to education money. All right, next item on our agenda, if there's no other comments, sorry, I don't want to rush through that. Okay, next item on our agenda is TLN, Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Of course, the legislation's not in session right now, but there's still a lot of talk going back and forth. And the first one, of course, was the special call legislative session from Bill Lee on Wednesday, August the 21st. And I did reach out to TSBA and asked them if they could give me some insight on what all this means about Governor Lee's 18 points of discussion. And they said, we'll just have to wait and see if it gets in, if it gets out, if it meets, if it talks. But just a couple of highlights. Of course, school safety plans and policies is about the second on the agenda. And report from the TBI regarding human trafficking is supposed to be a big one. Some of the things that Mr. Hayden and I have already bounced back and forth: transfer of juvenile defendant age 16 and older to courts with criminal jurisdiction, and then blended sentences for juveniles, and then, of course, other 18 things about other things that make up 18 public safety points. Now, some other things that TSB is bouncing back through their grapevine. One we've already discussed already is about the possibility of a $250 fine for the school and fan or even substitute player that would either disrupt, be unruly, for some reason walk on the field and play, but be ejected or for unsportsmanlike conduct. The school could also possibly have a school probation also as a punishment. More of that to come, which we might talk about next time. Knox County has allowed 1 full credit for religious classes that were taken outside school. The Protection Kids on Social Media Act, now this is was sent to or presented to the U.S. Congress, to prevent kids under 13 from having accounts on social media and 13 to 18 to have parental consent. And I think our schools have already faced some of that, TikTok and other things, even in the elementary level. Then we'll have to see if that helps us out. Hopefully it will. And from TSBA legislative representation will be changed to legislative liaison instead of legislative representative. So another wording change. The new Commissioner of Education is I hope I say this right, Lizette Gonzalez Reynolds. Y'all may know more about her now from Exeline Education Division. She's transferred over there. And now is the time to submit resolutions for consideration to the TSB for the state legislative session beginning 2024 that we will be voting on in November. So if you understood that, the ideas that come up now between us, between the teachers, that we will present to our state legislators are being formalized now so they can be voted on in November by your TSBA representatives that could go towards the bill to be passed. So it's a never-ending year of legislation, but even when it's not in session. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Any questions for Mr. Howard? TLN? I just would like to draw to the public's attention, this is an opportunity through TSBA, as Mr. Howard said, that if there was anything that you would like to be presented, see going up to the legislation, be considered as going into statute. We have a way of doing that through TSBA where we can pass that along and give other districts across the state to consider that and vote on that if that's something that TSBA carries to the legislators to promote on our behalf.
I do have one thing there, Mr. Chairman. We do have and we'll get to this in a few minutes, our fall district meeting coming up, where we meet with all the other Upper Cumberland districts in a common setting, and there will be a legislative update there as well, and we can present those at that time, so that it will come before our full Upper Cumberland districts, and then we can get behind whatever policies and whatever procedures need to be changed at that time.
So Mr. McDonald, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's our opportunity on a small scale as a district to bring that to TSBA. At that point in time, TSBA can present that at our district meeting, and depending on how it was voted on then it would ultimately end up in Nashville for the statewide session. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So again, public use your representatives and have ideas. They don't have to come and bring it to the board. We could have that discussion if it's something that thought we wanted to get behind. Then we have avenues to get that through our through TSBA, which is very involved legislatively on all the districts of the state's behalf. So, all right, thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, next we're moving into new business items. We have one new business. We have a volunteer coach that came in late that's been recommended for approval, and we're doing that under new business. Jason Carpenter, volunteer coach at White County High School football. And since would that have gone through the background check yet?
Today, I don't have results.
Okay, so we don't have results on Mr. Carpenter. We would be approving this volunteer coach contingent upon passing background check. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for approval of Mr. Carpenter for White County High School volunteer football coach. The motion by Mr. McDonald. Have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Howard. Any discussion?
I would just encourage the administration of the high school to make sure he is not on the field until he is approved for his background check. Can you pass that on to me?
Yes, I think currently he's planning to do some work in the press box and do some film study and things along those lines. But absolutely, and he has been he was our middle school football coach previous years, a couple of years ago. But it's just coming back to us, so we're going to run another background check just to be sure. But yeah, absolutely, until we have that, he won't be around working with students until we have a confirmed. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next item of new business is policy 4301, interscholastic athletics, TSSAA fund. We do have policy that pertains to our athletics, interscholastic athletics, and it speaks to general for just overall what our outlining our policies and our participation in these programs are offered to. It talks about insurance, schedule conflicts. We have a severe weather clause in there, a clause in about prohibiting prohibition against hazing, and now we have had, based on statute, or excuse me, coming from TSSAA, note that we have added to this policy a personal conduct at sporting events, and for our audience, I'll read this and this is in policy that we're considering, policy 4301. Personal conduct at sporting events says good sportsmanship and appropriate personal conduct are expected from all student athletes, coaches, and spectators. In the event that any student of White County High School behaves in a manner that violates the code of acceptable behavior, the school administration will impose appropriate discipline. Additionally, if any spectator, whether student or adult, behave in a manner that results in TSBA imposing a fine on the school for unruly behavior, then any such person will be barred from attending any extracurricular activities of White County High Schools until such fine has been reimbursed to the board. So the TSSAA does have authority to impose fines on us as a district, and in turn, if that was caused by spectators, then we now have the opportunity to seek reimbursement for them through the attendance of our activities. So this was a policy that was presented to us in committee, and we're going to have discussion for approval on this policy. And we also, given the fact that we are already in school, activities are taking place, would consider a motion to forego our policy on second reading due to this is one of a time-sensitive manner, and then this policy would go in effect on approval. So any other discussions about this before we entertain a couple of motions? Okay. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to forego the second reading per policy number. Mr. McDonald, did you look that up?
I didn't, but.
Sorry, I caught you off guard.
Yes, you did.
I
would make a motion that we forego the second reading.
Okay, Mr. McDonald makes a motion we forego the second reading on policy 4301. If it passes, do I have a second?
A second.
Second by Ms. Fowler. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, before going to second reading, does this require just recognition we're doing that, or does it require a more than simple majority vote, or do we know, or how we handle that in the past?
On what? On foregoing second reading?
Yeah.
Well, policy states we can do that if we agree that it's
1600.
Policy 1600 speaks to foregoing second reading if it's something clerical or time-sensitive matter. We feel that this would be something qualified under time-sensitive. It would be like just any other motion, majority.
Majority vote.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Any other discussion on foregoing second reading? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, I would entertain a motion, don't have to entertain a motion for approval. We've had discussion. So at this time, all those in favor of adopting policy 4301, the personal conduct clause revision in policy signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Policy will now go into effect. Next item on our business is old business. It was requested had a request to remind us of the sources of the softball hitting facility funding source. So, Mr. D, could you speak to that, please?
Actually, I think, Mr. Howard, did you have a question about that?
I had people call me and thank you, Mr. D, call me and comment to me asking, where was the funds coming from to pay for that, out of what line item? And secondly, how something of this magnitude right here, everybody wants to jump on and get there. There's also potentially, baseball would want theirs updated because they don't have any water or restroom facilities in their facilities. So just to be able to get that discussion out in front, maybe get out in front of it, to have our answers. I tried to look back at one of your emails that you gave us maybe I'll let you explain that. We had $300,000 in one account and needed some money from another, possibly savings. Let me make one more comment, then I'll turn the floor to you. If I had been reminded of that for making the motion, I still want the softball team to have a nice facility. But do we ever give out requests for bids and say, hey, $300,000 all we got to spend on this? What can you give us? Can we do that on a bid?
We can, but you'll get half of what we're gonna build. The costs are just outrageous. We budgeted 300,000, you're correct, is what we have in the line item for this year's budget. And the short answer is the rest is coming out of savings. I think it's 236,000 that's what the building cost, and that was the low bid. There was one bid that was $100,000 more than that. I think the high bid of the three that we received. So the short answer is it's coming out of savings account. It's coming out of our fund balance to make up the difference. And so the total, I think, was 536 was the cost of that. And that, believe it or not, is a scaled down version of what we originally, what the architects were drawing. I mean, that probably would have been a $2 to $3 million building had they built what they first drew. So what we're building is very comparable. It does have a bathroom, but a single bathroom, but it's very comparable in respect to what the boys have at the baseball field. We built it. It's basically a really nice pole barn, and with turf service. So, we've done some things, and we have some other plans for the boys' field in the future. And any coach can turn in, or any program school can turn in their request, and we'll look at those as we budget in the future.
Thank you. And I know this is just to, not to say appease or pacify, but to answer your question, hopefully into the future too. So this project can go forward from here on, and people say, hey, it's just insane when you look at building something for the school system now. So
Right now,
I think we're having buyer's remorse from the community come back and hit us a little bit, and the question, goodness, couldn't we have done something better? But I look forward to it being a good facility for our softball team. They deserve it.
yes.
Okay. All right. So that's all the items we have in old business. Next time on our agenda is chairman comments. Just a reminder that our next regular board meeting is on September 14th. And we will start our school visiting tour. That'll be 6 o'clock at White County Middle School. And then also a reminder that TSBA is mentioned, TSBA Fall District meeting will be Tuesday, September 26th, 5:30 to 8, and that will be at the Trousdale County. So all board members to be reminded of that, plan accordingly. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
A motion and a second, and I have a third. All those in favor say aye. Aye. No, and thank you, public, and staff for coming and supporting us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.